Devin and Morgana have been celebrating midlife love by getting married 100 times in 100 countries. They believe grown-up love gets better and more fun, especially for women. Everyone's smarter, wiser. Men are more relationship ready. And if they're not, it's obvious. Forget anything you were told about being too old or too late for love and adventure. Instead, get fresh new tips on dating, relating, and travel to exotic destinations. And best of all, call in for personal guidance, creating crazy, sexy midlife love in your life.
Well, hello. I'm Morgana. Here's my husband, Devin.
I'm just going to wave.
Yeah, husband of, I think, 25 times now.
It's remarkable.
And Devin, you'll note that I'm wearing this.
Yes.
And you forgot what it is.
Well, I want to keep it a surprise for our audience.
This was, if you loved me, you would have remembered that this was from our Bali wedding. One of my clients, because when we had our Bali wedding, it was, I think, my May 2016 retreat.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. And I brought Devin along because I just kept missing him so much. It's the only time he's gone to Bali with me. And we had a big wedding the first day of the retreat. And then I foolishly just put him on a plane and sent him home and focused on my retreat the rest of this day.
That was a good wedding.
It was a great wedding.
The hotel,
Srirati Cottages.
You can give a plug, totally.
Yes.
They had literally tracked down traditional costumes, and I was wearing the headdress and culottes and this whole white thing, Arabian Nights, the whole thing. It was actually really quite remarkable.
And my driver is, who's been my driver since, I think, 2013. I've led 10 of these retreats now, but he's a priest of his village. So he presided over our wedding. And the hotel gave us this beautiful wedding, and they were all there. So they're family to me. And it's on my mind because last night I booked rooms for my retreat in June of next year. I just had a feeling when I canceled my 2020 retreat, which was going to be, I think, in May this year. In February, it was clear what was going on. I just had a hunch that June would work. And now we're getting the news about the vaccines, and it actually looks like it's going to happen. So I booked my rooms for my Bali retreat. It's on my mind. And so I'm celebrating our love with this little infinity symbol that my husband can't remember.
Well, I have it in a sacred place.
Yes.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Because
I don't remember exactly where I placed it.
But it's very safe where it is.
It's very safe. And, I'm going to switch subjects.
Oh, and by the way, the hotel remembers you and says hi.
They were great. No, I will. Before I was going to just change the subject into some flighty, irrelevant commentary. They were terrific. It was a great location in Penisthanan. Lots of great little restaurants away from sort of like the Ubud kind of cluster of people. And so this was just a really great location. And they were just very, very kind, and it was beautiful. And they had a temple right on the grounds, like a very traditional kind of in other words, with the open mouth dragon next to the closed mouth dragon. It was really really
and that is just Bali. Is the tradition is everywhere, and it's like a home. Every home in Bali has its altar to its ancestors. I think I'm trying to remember which direction. I think the kitchen is in the south, and I think the ancestors are in the north, but I didn't go this year, so I forget. And so like a home, the resort has its temple to its ancestors in the correct direction. Yeah, I don't remember the directions. I'm so embarrassed. I used to know this stuff.
So that's a great lead in to my next observation, which was, there's a picture of us first of all the pictures, I always look weird, but I think that says more about me being and looking weird. But in one of the pictures, we are at the US Open, dancing at the US Open of West Coast Swing. And I always sort of marvel at that, because that is one of the few places that I can say without certainty or with complete certainty that I was the worst in the entire building in West Coast Swing, but somehow I ended up on the dance floor performing.
Performing for dancers all over the
Like
planet.
the best, most unbelievable dancers, and somehow there wasn't some sort of a criteria or where they're
There
just like
was.
literally
We
it was
were
like
actually-
anybody. Like,
we
do you
were-
know this dance? Get up and dance this
No,
dance.
but we were specifically invited, and we were invited to dance in the front, even though you dragged us back
I
to
didn't.
the
I was
back.
going to be in the last row.
And if you
That was
ever
by
watch
design.
the video,
If
you
you
can
watch
see
the
us
video,
fighting.
We were actually fighting because my wife needs to be in the front row. Realize, like, you know, because I was
Without any
the worst.
qualification. No, you were not. You're
No.
better than you think you are.
No, this is the room full of the world's best dancers.
This is true. We are
And
not
I
of that
am
caliber.
No caliber. This is
But
almost
that is
embarrassing.
the joy of midlife, is making a mistake or not being good enough would have been soul crushing mortification when I was younger. And now
Right.
I
I still wanted to be, I
love it.
felt it was actually important that we be sort of in the last row. And I remember us,
I
like,
think we
you were
were
like dragging
good.
me, and then you somehow managed to dance out on the edge. So and then kept positioning yourself further and closer to the cameras, which is,
dancing
makes
on
me-
the edge. That's like our love.
oh, yes, it
Oh,
is.
yeah.
It's so great. It's so great. Anyway, but that was a lot of fun. And so I sort of love that picture because I look very serious, because I realized that I'm dancing in front of all of these people. Why are we even here? And there wasn't anybody to give us a test
Because
prior
I'm just
to.
a girl who can't say no.
Well, that's it. Yeah, no,
That's-
you
that's
wanted
the
to
truth,
do it.
isn't
So
it?
I knew I was, soon as you were like, oh, I'm in, I knew it was like, oh, toast. And then there was a point where we were actually
and
in the middle
we
of the
did the
dance.
flash mob.
That's right. We did the flash mob, and there was a point where while we were at the US Open and we're dancing, and you were like so into it.
And no idea how bad I am.
Well, yeah, that's fine.
I
That's
didn't know
fine.
enough
Well,
to
no,
know
because
that.
I was the worst person in the room. So that the best, like the worst for you would have been second worst,
Mhm.
which I don't think that was the case. But here was the moment that I treasure.
Yeah.
There was a moment where we came out of a turn and we're facing each other, and I knew what was supposed to happen next. And I could see it in your eyes that you hadn't a clue. Like we were just like 6 steps into this sort of first foray into this, you know, like a minute, 2-minute long
Mhm.
choreographed dance that we're also dancing with like 30 other people.
That's true. Yeah.
And I turned around and I saw it in your eyes.
That I was a blank.
Was like, oh, this is, yeah, there was like, who knows what was going to happen.
And you know what happened? I followed.
Yes, you did.
I
You
followed
because
you.
I reached out and grabbed
you
the correct
led.
hand, and
Yeah.
then you were like,
Oh, that's right.
that was it. And then shortly thereafter, that guy took the photograph as if we were professional dancers. So if you're looking at that picture, if you've seen that picture, in
Don't
our
be
production-
fooled.
Right, don't be fooled. It's just, you know, smoke and mirrors and somebody with a really nice camera,
And
And a
we
high-
were actually pretty
high-
good.
high shutter speed. Now we're getting a little better.
We took private lessons. By the way, private dance lessons, couples therapy. It's like our steps are better, and it's good for marriage too.
Yes, it is. And so all of this
Yeah.
is the crazy, sexy part.
Oh, well, we've got more. We we have guests.
We do.
I know you're going, oh, thank God, right about now. But the way I want to ease into that is, so if you've been watching a while, you know that I've been in the personal development world for decades. I've been a pioneer in relationship with money coaching, and I've coached thousands of people since 1996. Crazy. And I've noticed that the really big gurus in my industry of influencers, whether it's personal development or e-commerce or whatever, the so-called thought leaders, have a really incredible track record of failed relationship, whether it's people, and this is not a secret. I'm going to name people and their history is not a secret. So like Tony Robbins and John Gray and Jack Canfield, the partners that they created their empires with are not the people they're with now. And I do believe that a change of circumstance, even if it's a great change of circumstance, lots of money, lots of celebrity, winning the lottery, everything you ever wanted, can put huge stress on a relationship. I have a client whose life partner of many, many years split when she came into her 8-figure fortune. So we think, oh, that'll solve everything. And no, change creates challenge. So I'm looking at these big names, and I'm also looking at a lot of my friends and peers in this world, and their marriages have been falling apart, which is, relationships I thought were really solid. And it's not everybody, but it's most of the people I know in my industry. And there's this one guy who is one of these influencers, has a big audience, really successful as a coach and a teacher and a trainer and an author and an entrepreneur of like everything under the sun. If it's Tuesday, he must be opening a new business. And I love the way he loves his wife. And so I wanted to invite Steve Olsher and his beautiful wife, Lena Bravo-Olsher, to talk with us tonight, because I'm frankly curious. Why are you still together? What do you know that has made this work for you? Well, so many of our friends.
So we should invite them on.
Let's come on in.
Let's bring them on.
Come
as
on
opposed
in.
to this.
Long soliloquy.
You can just keep talking about us. It's okay.
Well, thanks for stopping in. That's all the time we have.
And scene. Gotta go.
And cut. So.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah, it's great to see you.
Good to see you.
And you're all close and cuddly and looking happy and well.
Yeah.
True. You don't see the knife in the other hand right now. Sit up straight.
Strangling him. He likes it.
Yes.
So, what's your secret? Why do you choose each other?
Or even maybe we could start with, where did you meet?
We can go we'll get there.
Well, we could
too,
go in a lot of directions.
But let's start with right now. Why do you choose each other right now?
In this moment or at first? You're talking about in this moment.
Yeah. Like, why are you together? Because I think it's, to be together, you keep choosing each other. You don't just say, I do, and then you're set.
Well, I think we're each other's clowns. Like, we just make each other laugh. What else?
Oh, it's definitely a part of it.
Yeah, a big part of it.
The laughter, the attraction, the respect. Yeah, I mean, those are definitely three of the biggies, right? I mean, if you don't, I think if you don't laugh with your partner, that's going to be tough to have it be sustainable. I don't think if you're attracted any longer to your partner, I think that's going to be tough to make it sustainable. And if you don't respect your partner, I mean, and you can define that however in whatever way you want, but I think if you don't respect your partner, it's going to make it really tough for that to last too. So yeah, I mean, those are certainly three of the biggies for sure.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, Devin.
So how did you two meet? How did you kids meet? Because and how many years has it been that you've been married and been together?
I'll let you tell that.
Well, we've been married 23 years. We've been together about 24. It happened kind of quickly. Like, we met and married in like 8 months. So it just kind of like happened quick.
And how did we meet?
You tell.
Oh, I'm telling that part of the story. So, so we both worked in a loft office building in Chicago, and we both worked on the same floor of that loft office building in Chicago. And to get to my office, I would have to walk by their office because at that time Lena had worked for an orthodontist, and so it was an orthodontics office. I had to walk past that to get to the back hallway to get to my office, and so they had a glass door on their office. Now, if they didn't have a glass door on their office, we probably would have never met, right? So they had a glass door, one of those, you can see through and you can see what's going on. And on occasion, when I would walk by on the way to my office, I would see her working. And so, I was like, "Oh, who's that? She's super cute, and maybe I'll go say hello." So I stopped in one day to get an orthodontic checkup because I had braces when I was a kid. So I just wanted to see if my teeth were still doing okay. So I went in and made an appointment, and of course she wasn't working. So I was like,
That's my day off.
that was her day off. And so I told one of her coworkers, I was like, I work down the hall. Who's the dark hair girl that works here? She's super cute. Why don't you come home, just have her come by and say hello someday. And so I got braces again, just so I could keep coming back into the office. And every time I went back for more tightening and straightening and tightening and straightening, she wasn't working.
No, he didn't.
But no. So, okay, fine. So I didn't get braces, but I did go in and I did plant the seed of, hey, I like this girl, send her over. And sure enough,
we got your mail.
Yeah. You can tell that part.
Yeah. So we got his mail by accident, and my coworkers were like, just go over there.
Go take him the mail.
Yeah. And it was weird because in my head, I said to myself sarcastically, like, oh, watch, this will end up being my husband. And I never even thought I was ever going to get married. Like, I just didn't, and he ended up being my husband. So it's kind of weird.
So you have to be careful with that sarcasm.
I know.
So that's a short version of the story, but yes, basically they got our mail. She brought it over. I was on the phone, distracted, trying to get off the phone while she was standing there with the mail. And she waited and waited and waited and waited. And finally I was able to free up and talk to her and invited her out to lunch. And we met and married in 8 months.
Was there a moment? When did you know? Like, was there a moment? Like, because it's a short courtship for many people.
Obviously, Lena knew as soon as she got your mail.
True.
When did you know, Steve?
Oh.
Right. It was like an incantation. But was there a moment that, like,
I didn't know who he was.
Right, just some random guy at the office.
Who was going to be your husband?
She just fell in love with my name on the envelope. Love that guy. I mean, I think it was pretty early on. I mean, certainly within the first few dates where I was like, yeah, I want to see you again. And I mean, it was pretty early on that I knew that I at least wanted to see how far, we could potentially go as a couple. And yeah, I mean, I'd say it was literally within the first few dates, I knew pretty quickly.
Yeah,
oh, you did?
A boyfriend, and you told me to get rid of him.
She did. She had a boyfriend. She had a long distance boyfriend. I think I found this out like maybe after the second or third date or something like that. Because at one point,
No, it was right off the bat.
oh, she told me right off the bat.
Yeah.
See, now you can tell that part of the story because I don't remember that whole thing. Tell me
Yeah.
more. I know you had a boyfriend because I
So-
made you break up with him, but what happened? Tell me more.
Yeah, because he, when we finally did meet with the mail, he said, "So do you have a boyfriend?" And I said, "Yeah." And he grabbed my hand and he said, "Well, doesn't look too serious." So,
Because she didn't have a ring. Yes.
so
So that was the Steve's playa move.
Steve's playa. Exactly. No. You want to know the real playa move?
Yeah, no, totally. Let's hear it.
So the real playa move was, I don't know, maybe after the fourth or fifth date
no, this is the first date.
I didn't make you get on the phone with him and break up with me standing there until at least after the 4th or 5th date.
That's
Oh,
true.
that's class.
But there was another good move that he did.
Yeah.
On our first date, it was lunch, and I took it kind of easy peasy, and
It's just lunch.
just lunch. And so he was like, oh, so you want to hang out again and blah blah. And I was like, well, I do have a boyfriend, so maybe we can hang out, be friends or whatever. And he said, well, I don't look at you the way I would look at a friend, as just a friend. He said, I look at you in a different light, so I have enough friends. I'm looking at you in a romantic way. So he just
Aw.
like threw that out on the table, and I was like, oh, okay.
Ooh, I
So
like
that's
that.
Yeah.
that's bold,
Yeah.
True. Mr. Bold. Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
That's totally a bold move. So
It
was there a
was.
moment? So obviously you're kind of going along with it. Hey, break up with my boyfriend. Some random guy says, okay. So at some point you're going along with it, but at some point you must have like, okay, this is the guy. This is my guy, and there you go. Was there a moment for you, or was this just like it just kept feeling easier and easier?
Yeah, I mean, it did keep feeling easier. I mean, it was kind of easy to not think about the other guy too, because it was long distance relationship and all that other stuff. And but yeah, the more that we spent time together, I kept thinking to myself like, wow, this is great. I like talking to him, and he's funny, and we have very different interests. So, but we just kind of teach each other about these things, and I think that's part of the magic too, like with us, is that we're very different, but we're also very the same. And when one of us learns about something, then we just kind of teach the other one about it. And since we're both kind of goofy, then it just we try to do it in a humorous way. But yeah, to get back to that, I wanted to spend more time with him, and I thought, well, the other guy's gonna have to go.
So for those watching and listening at home, steal a person's mail and be
Yes.
snarky
Be direct.
and be direct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I think the be direct thing is actually one of those things that's incredibly important, especially like as we get older. I think the importance of it is simply from the standpoint of, do you want to spend the time developing a relationship when you have a particular motive, right? Here's my romantic interest. Do I want to switch gears and be a pal? Do I want that? Or am I better off sending it out like day one, moment one, I'm interested in you, not as a pal? So, I mean, I personally think that's the only way to go, because otherwise you create a dynamic where it's conceivable that Lena could have just said, well, but I'm in a relationship. I have this guy who is in, Singapore or something, who's far, far away. And so I think it was really important, because even if it hadn't gone Steve's way, the cards are on the table. He knows exactly what's up, and so does she, which I think is just an important thing for viewers to just understand about getting what it is that they want from a
Yeah.
relationship.
And you were not midlife crazy at that point. You were what, late 20s?
Yeah. I met him when I was I had just turned 25. Yeah, I think or 26 maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So how is love better now?
That's a good question. I mean, I would say obviously we know each other a lot better, right? So the likes and the dislikes and the things that are non-negotiable are pretty clear, and you got to learn a lot of what those things are, right? So so understanding what those things are, I mean, definitely makes a big difference, because the reality is we probably spent as much time bickering and quarreling and trying to figure each other out during the early years, than we did probably, loving on each other, right? And so, but we both knew it was worth figuring that out and getting through it and trying to understand what each other really wants. And I think now we're just much more clear on what the other really wants. And I would also add that I think that when you're younger, it's a lot easier to be very selfish, and learning how to be selfless is something that is very rare for someone in their 20s, 30s, probably even their 40s. And it's not until we're both now 50 that I think we're starting to get even more clear on what that looks like to be selfless.
Yeah, because sometimes you just have to like fill in when they can't, because sometimes life will throw whatever at you, and you just gotta, if for whatever the reason, I mean, they can't present their best self, I guess. I mean, you gotta kind of fill in and do it, even if you're mad at them, even if they're the one that caused whatever, you just have to fill in.
Yeah, you have to be nice and kind and loving even when you want to kill them.
Yes.
I speak to a fair amount of people who, especially people that are sort of under 30, and they frequently kind of describe it that they're looking for a 50-50 relationship. And when I press them about it, it's sort of like, well, I want to move forward 50%, and I want them to meet me halfway. And so my response to that is that doesn't really exist, because some days I'm giving 100% and some days I've got giving 2%, because that's what's in the gas tank on any given day. How do you guys feel about that idea?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak for myself, and also just Morgana, going back to kind of the original point of discussion here in terms of you're looking at people who have achieved a certain level and then they're no longer with that person. I really think that whether it's 100, Devin, or 2% or whatever it is, I mean, at the end of the day, for me, it really just comes down to personal responsibility, right? And recognizing that whatever it is that's going on, that's bothering her, it is truly because of something that I did. And that's 100% zero, right? And so to me, that's the hardest thing is recognizing that it is not 50-50. I mean, it is 100% and zero. And that's a huge delineation between sort of the relationships that work and survive and have longevity versus relationships where just neither party is willing to take personal responsibility for their role, especially when it comes to change and modification, right? Because so often they want the other person to do what they need and change for them. And that's just not a winning formula. Anything to add to that?
I was just thinking it's kind of like day by day that, like, sometimes, sometimes you're giving more, sometimes I'm giving more, and we just try to fill in, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's
like,
got good days and bad days and days of high energy and days of low energy.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
and triggers.
Oh, triggers, yeah, for sure.
And we got kids and we have different triggers when it comes to the kids, and that throws another dynamic in the mix, of course. But there are, and that's I think that's a big part of having a mature relationship as well, is just recognizing without it even happening what the triggers are and when a trigger is going to take place, and doing whatever you can to solve for that before that really escalates.
Or make it better if it happens, not, like, don't keep poking the bear, or.
So can you give me an example of how you prepare for a trigger ahead of time?
So I know that like one of Lena's big triggers is feeling like she's not being heard, not being listened to. So it's just, it's the way it is, right? And everybody has their own triggers. And so for her, I know when I'm not paying enough attention or I'm distracted by my phone or whatever it is, or the computer or, something, and I'm not fully focused, I know that, she's got a pretty decent fuse, but at some point it's like, I want to be heard and you need to listen to me. And then the same thing, obviously, with the kids, it's just, she's got a pretty long fuse, but after a while, it's like, if I ask you to do something 12 times, I know something's going to come an exploding. So I got to try to get ahead of that when, when I hear, for instance, I hear her asking one of the boys to do something for the 5th time, like typically by the 5th time, it's over. So yeah, as an example.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like just doing things that as simple as, well, he doesn't like that, so don't do it. Or, he definitely likes that, so try to do it. So I don't know. Just stuff like that,
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds simple, but it really isn't
I know.
that simple in practice.
Yeah. I gave a friend a piece of advice not too long ago, which I think is another secret of the success. And there's a bunch of them that I am now aware of that I think work really well. And a lot of that's, because of Lena and her teaching me a lot of, what works for her. But one of the things that I think most couples forget about and have to be conscientious of is going the other person's pace and being willing to, as I told my friend, go her pace. In other words, like he really likes to hike and he's fast and he likes to go and just, it's not as an enjoyable experience for his wife because she doesn't move at his speed. So, even just something as simple as going her pace in that regard. Like I know when we walk, Lena walks much faster than I do. And we walk the dogs every night and I like to just kind of stroll, and so just like, and I know, and that's literal and that's figurative, right? In both ways. But going your partner's pace in whatever that means is definitely something that again moves you out of the land of being selfish and into the land of being very selfless.
So that's an interesting analogy, just from the standpoint from what I know of you through sort of the personal development field, which tends to be very high pressure, I would say. I think very demanding. I think probably very time consuming as an entrepreneur, and travel. I mean, obviously, we're at a place right now where that's probably not as happening as much, but I'm assuming just because I've married to my lovely wife that I know the kinds of demands that she experiences when she's sort of in the thick of it. And Lena is a mortician. Is that the correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many titles.
Right, but I guess
what do you like to go by?
I don't mind mortician, but it's embalmer or funeral director. Like,
gotcha. Okay.
I just think that is so cool. You're the first person who does what you do that I've met.
Oh, that's funny. A lot of people tell me that. They're like, "Oh, you're the only one I know." So
yeah.
Right. So I guess where I was going at, without trying to be too glib, is that Steve's sort of like this high pass, high speed thing, and then Lena's working with the dead, which is sort of.
That's very funny. That's funny.
So, I mean,
what's your question, Devin?
I just sometimes like to hear myself talk. No, really, what I wanted to hear from Lena is like, was there an adjustment period for you when Steve's kind of like, I've got my foot in a bunch of different pies here, and you've got this sort of, it's just, I think, a different vibe. And was there an adjustment for you during that?
No, I mean, like when we met, we just had different things going on. Like I was super busy when I met him. He didn't know if I was going to have time for him because I was working, I was going to school, I was volunteering. I was a single mom. I mean, I just had like so many things going on. But then, slowly, we're always both kind of busy in our own ways. So, and I wasn't always doing what I'm doing now. I've been in this industry like, roughly 10 years. I've done some other stuff too. So I feel like his pace and my pace, they're both kind of like busy. We're both kind of busy bees. So I guess
Compatible.
yeah.
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 Well, you just listed a bunch of reasons that I hear all the time given as reasons why a woman's not going to meet somebody. Not just because she tells herself that, but friends and even teachers and coaches will say, oh, you don't have time for love, and you've got the kid, and you've got all this other stuff. And I love that you just showed that for the BS it is.
Yeah. And I mean, it really just kind of, like I said, it just kind of happened in a way that I wasn't expecting. Like I kind of thought like, well, I don't know if like marriage is ever going to happen for me. I just thought maybe I'd just be like a serial monogamist or something. And because I just feel like I've always just had so much going on, so much stuff that I want to do and so many interests that I didn't know. And I mean, I think that it can happen like for anybody at any point.
Well, and I have a hunch that somebody who didn't have stuff going on
Mm-hmm.
would not be a good match for Steve.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great point. And the funny thing is, and you're talking about what keeps it going and so on. And I think that's a really important point is you have to have a lot of your own stuff going on so that you're not, I mean, it's good to be needy and want to spend time with your significant other, of course. But you also need to have your own stuff going on so that you remain interesting, right? And so she wasn't an entrepreneur, didn't matter. The things that she knew about were things that I had never, were all new to me. It was like, she was teacher, I was student. I mean, even like simple things that you guys probably take for granted and others probably take for granted in terms of like food, right? Like when we met, she was like, do you want to go out for Ethiopian food? And this was like 1997, something like that, right?
Probably 96.
So 96, right? Wherever it was. So not terribly far removed from the famine in Africa and, feed the world, all that fun stuff, right?
Don't do it.
Those they have really big portions for a starving country, don't you think?
So she's like, do you want to go and have Ethiopian food? And I was like, I didn't think they had food. like I had never eaten Ethiopian food, right? Like as an example. I mean, even Indian food and Thai food and all of these things that she just took for granted and she loved. Now all of I love all those foods too, but for me it was just like it's a whole new world, and I wasn't even familiar with. So there's different ways that you can educate and be interesting to your partner, and you continually learn and evolve and try new things, and that's part of what I think keeps it exciting and fresh too.
Something that I think is different in your relationship and you, Steve, than a lot of other people in our industry that I have known over the years is that very often I've seen the guru is actually very insecure and needs all the attention. And so the spouse becomes the support, but the star has to be the star. And I'm not getting that between the two of you. It feels very equal. Yeah.
I mean, you can speak for yourself on this one, but I know she was even bashful about doing this. And do I even want to, so I don't know. Do you want to speak to that at all about star versus not star?
I mean, he's definitely more of the introvert. I mean, the extrovert between the two of us. I'm definitely more introverted. And, I like that he's more extroverted. I do. but I don't know if you ever saw Chris Rock do Tambourine, where he does the analogy of sometimes you have to be the one playing the tambourine for your spouse. And I feel like, you know, when I need to do something, he's like totally encouraging me to come out of my shell, and he's playing the tambourine. So I mean, it's yeah.
So we take these nightly walks with our dogs, and it's about a mile and a quarter or something like that. It's a stroll around the neighborhood. It takes us, I don't know, 35, 40 minutes or something of that nature. And so actually last night even, I was saying to you that, you know, it's just like part of the reason why I want her to do more of these sort of things and encourage her to do more of these sort of things is because I feel like and those who know her best, but certainly, you know, I get the benefit of all of that knowledge and all of that wisdom and so on, that is, it could be so valuable to so many. And so, yeah, I mean, like the funeral home's a perfect example here. We're actually in the process of opening a funeral home together. Yeah, I mean, it's Bravo Family Mortuary. So, I mean, it's, you know, it's for sure your thing with my support. And I personally think, you know, she has the opportunity to really reinvent that industry in some ways and take the lead on moving that industry forward, and just the wisdom and the way she cares about people. And, you know, it's just not it's not a business for her, it's a calling for her. And so I'm happy to applaud that, you know, and put the spotlight on her, because I think the world would really benefit from everything that she has within that, you know, it just hasn't really had an opportunity to share.
Thank you.
Oh.
But I want him to shine too at the funeral home, because I really think that he would be such a good funeral director. So I've been, you know, telling him, because he's very nurturing, and he's certainly much louder than I am. So he could like direct funerals, and
These things are true.
Yeah, come out of your shell, Steve.
Yeah, I know. I'm working on it. Getting there.
no, I think he'd be like, I think he'd be super with it. But we'll see.
So I'm curious, because you have 2 kids, right?
So we have 2 together, and then Lena had a son when she was quite young, and so we have 3 boys. One that's quite older now, and then a junior in high school and an 8th grader.
So have you thought about how what the future brings? Because I think when we start talking about being of a certain vintage, a lot of it is what happens when the kids move on, and, you know, those kinds of things, when they go start doing their own thing. Like my kids now, she's a senior, you know, at a university, and it's wonderful, and I'm super proud of her, but she's not here
But
all
he's
the
also
time.
dying inside, missing her.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
you know, that's a separate thing, because, you know. So have you guys thought about those kinds of things? And I guess you have one son who's out of the home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So have we thought about those things?
You know, I mean, we talk about, you know, sometimes we'll come up with things like, oh, we're going to get a Airstream and just, you know, like go
Go around the
everywhere.
country.
And
Then I realized that I would probably have to go to the bathroom in a metal container somewhere, and that is unappealing. But that's poetry. Story. Yes.
and what if it's really hot? I hate heat. So
So, what else have we thought about after for the next phase?
I don't know. The thing is, like, sometimes we daydream about not working, and then we realize that we love working. We just both really like working. I mean, we definitely like taking breaks, and when we can be alone, it's great. But you know, I don't know. So
Yeah.
maybe our plan is not to have a plan. We'll see what happens. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. It's certainly, I mean, it's certainly appealing to look at what's possible when we, you know, when we have just ourselves to, you know, to think about, right? But at the same token, we're not trying to rush anybody out of the house. We like their company, and
Yeah.
it's just maybe more more vacations and these sort of things together, perhaps either just alone or together when they don't have the obligations of school. And so, yeah, but the funeral home will make things interesting. It's just so hard right now. With this sort of tunnel vision on getting the funeral home opened.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so hard to see past what life could look like when that's up and operating, because that's gonna be a pretty big. It's gonna be a big requirement
Yeah.
of time and energy and resources, and so it's just so hard to see past that in this moment.
Yeah. I mean, it's an industry that never sleeps. So
Or always sleeps. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
No, well, I discovered last year when my father died that my uncle owns a funeral home in Ohio. And my stepmother's brother. And I have just so much gratitude and respect for just the kindness and delicacy of helping somebody make choices at that moment. You know, is real. It takes a lot.
sorry to hear about your dad.
Thank you. Thank you. It's mixed because he had Alzheimer's, so there was kind of the joy of him being released, and then there's the loss. Yeah, it's something we all go through, which is why what you do is so important, what the two of you are creating.
Yeah, we complement each other nicely. I mean, when you think about the work that I do in terms of helping people really get more clear on what puts fire in their soul and really making the most of this time while they're alive, and then pass them off to to the other side of the business. And
Now if one of your kids just becomes an OBGYN, you're like a one-stop shop for everything.
Circle of life.
We got the whole thing covered.
Yeah.
So is this the first time you guys are going to be working together sort of like on a professional level, like in terms of like a specific project?
It is, right?
I
Am I
think
missing
so.
anything?
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we used to DJ together.
We did
Yeah.
DJ weddings together. That was fun for a while, right?
That was
We
a
did
lot
that.
of fun. Yeah.
Did that for about a year or so. 'Cause I had DJed in clubs and done other things, and so that was fun. We did do that together.
Yeah, that was fun.
I forgot about that.
Mhm.
But formal type of business like this, for sure, the first thing. I haven't had a retail sort of job and I don't even know how long, like having to be at a certain place at a certain time sort of thing, and having hours of operation. Yeah, I mean it's been decades.
Yeah, it's when you were in the building that we met in. That's probably the last time, right?
Yeah, but even then there was flexibility on it. Like people weren't counting on us to, like, it's not like we had posted hours
Oh,
on a sign or whatever, right? So it'll be interesting. And then that, there's that whole dynamic too, right? Of having to be there, which is 15 minutes or so, 15 minutes from our house, and the kids being here, and then our having to be there, and the funerals, and so that'll just bring another dynamic to the table.
Do you have any practices to just kind of align yourselves with each other or connect or, light the spark between you? Or is it just the kidding and laughing? And what if we were to like take your secret sauce and package it to the masses, what would you put into that?
Well, I like the love styles thing because, we try to, respect each other's love styles.
Love styles?
Yeah. What are your love languages?
Yeah. So
what are your love languages?
Mine is quality time, and his is the affection one. And so that's one thing that we definitely try to keep sacred, like try to get that time in, and that, but also we have a nightly dog walk, and that's our way to we just always have good talks with the dog walk. And even if we're like cranky with each other, then, it's a chance to try to make up.
Mhm.
But we've had silent dog walks before too, when we're really mad at each other. There's
Yeah.
yeah, there's been walks when like we're just like so mad that it's the whole there is just a long
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Do the dogs notice?
No,
They don't care.
they're too busy like
They're too busy sniffing the
sniffing,
newspapers
yeah.
and trying to figure out what the daily news is.
yeah,
Yeah.
daily dog pee.
I mean, I'd say, part of it too is just carving out, like, like Lena said, time for each other. Trying to get the occasional couple of days away, have mom or someone else come in to watch them. Try to do the date nights and try to be consistent about that, and even doing date nights with the kids where she'll get one kid and I'll get the other kid, and we'll just do things separately. But really, I think that and then there's always which is, that's a whole different story, but that's
For
that's a good
listeners
thing
at
too.
home, I think
Yes.
Steve smokes
No,
weed.
I'm not. I had an itch. I was
Okay.
itching just itching my nose.
Just the nose itch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
but no, I think that just the fact that there are a lot of couples who do more things apart than they do together.
Mm.
And we do much more together than we do apart. We still do things apart. I mean, we're not always together and doing things, but I would say that we do more things together than we do solo, and you just have to I think you just have to put in that time.
Well, I think you mentioned something earlier in our conversation about just having personal responsibility. And so the way I would look at that, the way I sort of consider it in my own relationship with my lovely wife, is that there's a commitment. In other words, my personal responsibilities is to attempt, I fail quite regularly, but to attempt to maintain the vows of what the relationship is supposed to be about. Real simple, basic stuff: to love, honor, and cherish, and to show up when things kind of suck. Be mindful of her love language and to show up for her, and to realize that the success of the relationship frequently comes from my willingness to be selfless.
Yeah.
And that's,
agreed.
I think, a real significant part of what sort of the day-to-day is, because the weddings, as you know, we get married a lot.
Well, we used to anyway.
We used to, but that will come back. Like, the world will heal itself. And at some point in time, we'll get back to normal. And so that's the fun, ridiculous photo op of what our relationship is. But really, a lot of it's just like, she's testing camera equipment and it's like, oh yeah, no, I have to take out the garbage. I'm wheeling the garbage down the driveway. And that's because that's part of the deal. Do you know what I mean? Part of the
Yeah.
deal is all the mundane stuff that you just have to kind of keep feeding into the relationship to allow it to thrive.
Yeah. And I will say, just in further in that particular conversation, that I think that's where when you try to have your partner do things that they're just not naturally inclined to do, it can cause more friction and concern, right? You can want till the cows come home for your partner to be, a neat freak. Like, I'm more of a neat freak than Lena is.
Sure is.
But I'm not going to change how she is. She's not, dirty, but I just like, I grew up in a house, that had roaches and mice and that kind of crap. And it's just like, I just freak out at the thought of, having bugs in a dirty house, and right, sugar and things that attract ants and, all that stuff. It's an OCD or whatever. And, I've just recognized that we're going to be on different levels. And if I get frustrated that she's not cleaning, what I need to do is I just need to clean and stop being frustrated that she's not cleaning.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she does clean. I'm not trying to say that, again, I'm not saying there's filth and squalor and all that. I just happen to be like, OCD about it.
You're just
Various
the
things, right?
Tony Randall in the relationship.
Exactly, right? And at some point do you value the relationship more than you value the task? And ultimately that's the question.
That's beautiful. I think we are just about out of time.
Yeah, we got about 90 seconds.
Like I could keep talking with you for ages. So
Where can people track you down?
now that
Don't.
you've sold off all of your podcasts and
All right.
magazines, no.
Yeah, don't.
But
No.
if somebody drops dead in the San Diego area, they go to Bravo
Family
funeral.
mortuary. Yes.
Family
Bravo
mortuary.
It's in the works right now, like still doing construction and things like that. But
Yes. Don't
so
go there.
stay
don't go there
alive
yet.
a
You'll
little
decay.
longer. Yeah,
Yeah.
just stay alive a little longer.
Stay alive longer.
yes, please.
A little longer. We're almost ready for you.
And for all of you who are still alive, Devin and I will be back next week, Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific time with more crazy, sexy midlife love. Go join our family at crazysexymidlifelove.com. Download Devin's ebook, and we
All
will
right.
see you in a week. Mwah.
Mwah.
Thank you for listening to Crazy Sexy Midlife Love. Please sign up to join our free love family at crazysexymidlifelove.com to get alerts to live shows, call in and ask questions, or just listen in. And ladies, don't forget to download Devin's free ebook, Women Are Smarter Than Men and Other Secrets Marriage-Minded Women Need to Know. Also available at crazysexymidlifelove.com.